time zones, my Sako nuts. I'm Sako Tumi, also known as Cass Voit, and today I'm having a chat with horror writer R.C. Scott. All right, let's introduce R.C. Scott, horror writer. Woo! Woo!
Hello. What's up, Sako?
I am doing well. Let's say hi to the chat. Debbie, who is also a comic illustrator / writer, and I am sure she will be interested in the things we will be discussing today. You doing double duty in the chat? Howdy. SD Fiston, make friends with the like button. Hi, Ken.
That's one of my droogs, Ken. What up, Ken?
And Cool Gamer, who is who hops in and hops alike and lurks for the rest of the stream, which is super awesome. Hello, Mama Ward.
Hey.
Woo! So, where do I start? Let's see here. What was the first story you ever wrote, and what happened to it?
The first story I ever wrote was about the second semester of junior college. I was pursuing a degree in creative writing. Mind you, without any intention of teaching.
Right.
But yeah, my one friend finally got tired of hearing me talk about wanting to be a writer, wanting to write a story. I think all of our friends have this. And she was the one that finally said, all right, either do it or don't. Or get off the pot.
Or get off the pot.
All right, yeah. I don't know if I could swear on here. So shit, I did. I got 2 pages into my first story, slowed down a little bit, came across for creative people that kind of got my courage up and started jutting through it. And that's what became No Strings Attached. And I just
wow. So this
3 years ago.
And right on. So that is a wonderful piece, by the way. Let me bring up your Amazon page. See all buying options.
I've noticed some people have had trouble purchasing it, like I don't know, through the app or through the Amazon site.
Because it's Kindle Unlimited, and for those of us without Kindle Unlimited, it kind of makes it hard to buy. Let me bring up your Amazon page. Come on. Because you just released a 2-book, like, double feature.
Yep.
And has this wonderful ad for it, which I think is awesome.
Thanks.
Let's see. Can I share this?
Yeah.
Is there a short link?
I only know the one through the app. I know that's the shortest one. The one through the site is like a whole paragraph. But if you're talking about the cover, that was actually done by my editor, Jason McCord. He's actually been my protagonist through this whole thing, and yeah, props to that guy.
Props to that guy. I think it's super cool. I'm gonna share the screen. So you were just talking about No Strings Attached. Oh, right. I can't open it from there. So this was 3 years ago, you said?
When I started, yes. I'd say I finished it about December or January of that year.
Right on.
I was still learning how to walk. Couldn't get that full stride going yet.
Well, I think as far as self-publishing goes, you kind of went into the deep end before, while you're while you're crawling, which I think is kind of amazing. When you put this up and kind of like got your first, when you sold this first piece of writing, how did you celebrate?
I was at work the whole night. It was definitely a silent celebration there.
Oh yeah.
I'm not exactly. I work in a shipping docks on the south side. I'm not going to knock my coworkers, but not exactly the most literary of sorts. So like, yeah, I wrote a book. I wrote a short story. Okay. Now grab this damn box and get out of my way.
Oh,
it's all right.
That's tragic. You should have a party every time you release something.
I actually kind of. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say I actually kind of did have a party, but it was unofficial. That same friend who finally told me to shit to get off the pot has been a friend since high school. Pretty good at proofreading, but anyways, I decided in retaliation, also as a thank you, to model my main character after her in that story, Jax. And over Halloween weekend, she turned her garage into like this, souped up looking haunted house. And she's got stage props and all that, so it looks straight legit. And she asked me if I want to be part of it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
I grabbed my old, silver shamrock jack-o'-lantern mask, creepy jumpsuit, and I got in the haunted house. It was kind of like a, unofficial release party. And, Frank and I got to hang out the creation for the weekend.
Wow, that sounds really fun. Very cool. So what is your process like? Like pen, paper, word processor, human blood when the moon is full? How do you write?
Well, I'm not legally able to tell you how I do that part, the blood right, but the rest of it, I'm kind of actually working at it, trying to get my own system because I'm like watching everybody else and trying to mimic that.
Oh, and kind of like figuring out what other people are doing, and maybe you can upgrade your process a little bit.
Because if there's one thing about me is, I'm a mixture of stuff down to my genetics, and and also being at a place such, a melting pot of multicultural, worlds. That's just how kind of am. I, take bits and pieces from everywhere and work into my own style because everything else doesn't work really.
Right. What's the biggest mistake you've made as a writer so far?
Biggest mistake I've made as a writer so far. I guess not paying enough attention to a story. Like I get that attitude where like I'll jot through it. I'm like, that's good enough. And like think like with no strings attached, like that first draft, it was a little different. A lot of awkward phrasing and stilted dialogue and shit like that. And I wouldn't try to publish it anyway. Like, that's good enough. And then I come back to it like a year or two later, a little more experience. Like, oh, this is trash, and work through it. And I think that's not so much about making mistakes. It's like you're not the person you were when you wrote that. So is it a mistake or just previous life? Yeah. But
it's just growth.
Don't get me wrong, there are mistakes. Okay, fine. I wrote this body horror story. It was actually my second story after No Strings Attached. I got about 3/4 of the way through it. I watched this one horror film called Bite. I don't know if you heard of that. Yeah. Well, my story is about a woman who gets bit in the Amazon and slowly turns into a mutant spider. So and a lot of times she's in her bedroom with, all of a sudden at the end there's webbing everywhere. It looks all like Cronenberg and shit. So I write that. Then I watch the movie. I'm like, whoa, wait. I didn't do this. So I did something wrong here. But I try to fix as much as I can. I sent it to an editor. I'm like, hey, wait, before you do anything, watch this movie first. And she's like, yeah, it's pretty damn close. You got to change this. Yeah. That's probably my biggest mistake.
Yeah. Right on.
What about you?
Biggest mistake was my first book I released on Storyteller's Vault. Instead of rebranding it and putting it on Amazon, I feel like I would have done a lot better. I mean, it was still successful, even on Storyteller's Vault, but more people have an Amazon account than have a Storyteller Vault account, So like everybody who bought my book had to sign up for Storyteller's Vault and then buy it. And I think that's my regret, is going Storyteller's Vault before Amazon.
I've never even heard of Storytellers. Is it like obsolete now?
It is White Wolf's like player made content community. So, Ken likes your spider story.
Yeah, along with being a friend, he's like one of the few people. Like, I know people do like the whole alpha beta reader things. Either I haven't gotten to that yet, or I'm not going to do it. But I have a few set of friends that I send my stories to, and they come back with their objective opinions on it. And he's one of those.
That's nice. I don't have one of those.
Well, it was either that or, go in the writing community and make friends with strangers. Like, here, read my baby. Like, you know what? I'll just get to my friends and just trust their opinion.
Right on. Mama Ward has her biggest mistake. I didn't format my first book properly, and the rag you write, or at least that is the one that annoys me the most. Learning format has been almost as hard as learning marketing. And in a way, it is part of marketing. Again, I offer formatting, so if you don't want to deal with that anymore, you can totally send it my way, and I will make quick work of it.
Is that hard to learn? I've been considering it, but like between being lazy and out of time.
I learned in college, so let's see. Do you buy like print copies of your books and conventions and stuff like that, or are you exclusively on Amazon?
You said for my own stuff or for my own, other people's stuff?
For your own stuff.
I have nothing physical. Yeah, I was thinking about printing out a few physical copies for people and like sending them for Christmas or whatever. Signing them, just friends and stuff.
That sounds great.
I'm not at that budget yet, but I have considered it, like just for a personal copy as a memento. But at some point, if I get any kind of trashing going, I'll probably take them down and put them in a collection.
Nice.
With some new stories, obviously. What about you?
What about me?
What about your physical copies? Do you have how do you?
Do I have them up here? I think they might be in the basement. I have a couple of copies of Hope's Chest. I don't have Flambeau, and I don't have Shadow of the Fae in print, but okay. I would have you, but I could only pay you in 1 cookies and good meals. If you can ship it, I am in.
I'm already in. Show me how to do this. Cookies. All right. Chocolate chip though.
Sample prints to edit because it's cheaper than buying printer ink. You know what? That is a good point. I have 2 to 3 copies of each book I loan out or give to F&F. Yeah.
Where would you go to print out a physical copy?
It depends on what I'm printing.
Like a short story.
If I'm doing it through Amazon, I would go through KDP so that people can order piecemeal. And I don't have to hold the stock like Amazon handles it all.
I shall look into this.
If you need help with formatting it for print, I'm gal. And my middle takes copies on the ship with her to loan out. Her cabin mates read the 4 she took with her to England. Very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool. How do you handle bad reviews? Have you received bad reviews at any point?
Well, I think I handle it just the way I handle any criticism. Depends who it's coming from, what their opinion means to me.
Mhm.
I've noticed, well, like, as I get older, I just care less. So it's like I celebrate the good reviews. I agree and laugh with the bad reviews. It's like, yeah, I did kind of suck, didn't it? Whatever. It's not like knocking my own stuff, but it's just like, what's the point in letting it drive you down? I'd rather just laugh at it, even if they're right.
It is fun to laugh at, for sure.
Especially if it's
What's
like
the
a good.
worst?
I was gonna
Sorry?
say, especially if it's like a good, incisive Edgar Allan Poe kind of review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the worst advice you hear authors give writers?
Oh, worst advice. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. I know the writer's more than likely coming from a good place, and it all depends on how that advice helped them and how it could possibly help the writer they're trying to give it to. It may or may not. I mean, it depends on what kind of advice it is. I'd say anyone that gives advice with a narrow mind, that's stuck in like old ways, in a in creativity where it's fluid and everything fluctuates. You just being so rigid, and then trying to pass that rigid on to somebody else. Does it make sense?
Sure. Yeah, that does. Yeah, I get you. What lessons have you learned, if any, from reading and writing horror?
I've definitely learned pacing. That's for sure. Because
Pacing is super important. Yeah.
if you're actually trying to tell a story, if you're just trying to have a straight up gore fest, then you don't have much substance to that.
I
But
feel like it's like gore and horror aren't necessarily the same thing. And like, I'm not a huge gore fan. I like psychological horror. It's really where my bag is.
I mean, other than being horrific, I'd agree. Hell yes.
Oh, don't feed the ink to the don't feed the ink to the goats.
Right. But I was gonna say I like it all. Psychological, body horror, cosmic horror. But yeah, other than horrific, I mean, it depends on the situation. Would you consider Terrifier a horror film? It's basically just a straight up gore fest, but
It's just a gore fest.
But it's still
Yeah.
a scary clown killing people.
Yeah.
Now, would you consider Martyrs a horror film?
I haven't seen Martyrs, actually.
Well, if you ever want to completely fuck up your whole week, watch the French film Martyrs. It's like psychological body horror, and just that ending.
Sounds fun.
Oh yeah.
Let's see here.
But what's the worst advice you ever got? You've been in the game longer.
No adverbs. And even the people who say don't use adverbs use the hell out of them. So I guess it's like while you're editing to kind of like try and make your writing more concise.
Right.
Because using adjectives to describe a verb is, there might be a better word for this bunch of words that you are using. So in that regard, I suppose it's good advice. But in like the do what I say, not what I do sort of system that like Stephen King and the like have, I think it's bad advice.
I actually, my one friend, she's a fellow HWM, or a fellow rookie. I was reading a collection of short stories by her on Kindle, and she uses adverbs a little excessively, not too much, but I've been picking on her about a lot lately. And now that I'm getting back to, I was going to my graphic novel, and I went back to prose writing to revise my story, and I realized, oh fuck, I got a lot of adverbs in here too. Karma. But I noticed there's one thing in my writing that I'm a real stickler about. It's repetition with words.
Yes.
Like in the same paragraph. Like if
In
I
the
see
same
that,
breath.
I
Redundancies. Yeah.
yes, I will sit there on that paragraph for about 20 minutes and work something out before it doesn't look like it's repeating itself.
Yeah. So, what does the future hold?
Who cares? I'm living today. Why regret the past? Why be anxious of the future? All I can do is
Here.
try to work at it and make it suck less.
Indeed.
One atomic habit at a time. So I'm reading this book.
What was the last book you finished reading?
A short story collection by Ramsey Campbell is Phantasmagoria.
Nice. Nice. What are you reading now?
Oh God, I'm reading like. Well, I'm reading 2 short stories by these 2 young writers I've been talking to, trying to help out, get that worked out. I've been reading this one book that's been beaten over my head for the past few years called How to Win Friends and Influence People, because apparently I'm rough around the edges and have a bad attitude I need to work on a little bit.
Aww.
Yeah, who would have thought? What else am I reading? I went back, started reading Frank Miller's old run of Daredevil, because I finally collected the entire run. That was like a 2-year journey of creeping through comic book shops, trying to find an issue that was under $30. Like the first appearance of Elektra and all that jazz.
Yeah.
What you reading?
Really, when I'm working on my own stuff, I tend not to read a lot of content, mostly because I don't want the content to influence what it is that I'm writing. So I read or I write. I don't.
Well, no, you want to.
I don't mix the two.
Well, up here, you imagine there's a few stand-up comedy places, and I've hung out in them quite a few times, and a few stand-up comics I've met. They don't like checking other people's material. They will dip out after every set because they don't want to accidentally steal their jokes. They want to keep their mind pure. They don't want it to accidentally get ingrained. That's why they don't talk to other comedians about their material. They don't want to accidentally hear an idea and incorporate it in their set, and all of a sudden that guy's coming to them afterwards. Hey, what the fuck, man? See, I get that. So I try to be the same. At the same time, I'm at that point where it's like, is this idea the best? Should I bounce it off somebody? If I get to that point, then I'll, reach out. Otherwise, keep my own counsel.
I like bouncing ideas off of people, but the setting has to be clear, right? So Flambeau was completely crowdsourced. Because we did it on stream, and we had a whole bunch of people in the chat who kind of helped us come up with a story. At least flush out the details. I feel like the big plot notes we came up with, but all the little details and stuff like that, I feel like that was mostly crowdsourced.
Not to mention, the more I've been, gone on as a writer, the more I'm just taking inspiration from, moments in life, and wow, that'd make an interesting idea for a horror story. One example, I work in this massive warehouse. It's the central hub of the Midwest for my company.
Wow.
And the guy I work with, he's a good guy, kind of spacey. And me being a jerk, I kind of like messing with him a little bit, not in a mean way. But anyways, there's this thing there, something about that place brings a lot of angry energy that I've noticed, since I've been there. And he brought it up one day, and I'm just being me. I'm like, yeah, dude, there's a rage demon here. It's like, what do you mean? You didn't know that? Yeah, there's a rage demon in this place. It feeds off of the anger, resentment, and bitterness of everyone here. That's why most people who work here are addicted to either drugs or alcohol, which they are. He's like, well, really? I'm like, yeah, man. Do you ever realize we can't put stuff in those other bins, in the warehouse? That's because that's the demon's location. Like he's freaking out, and I'm just like, I just walk away laughing. I didn't think about it. I come like a week later. He comes walking up to me. He's like, "Hey man, I've been thinking about what you said to me last week." I'm just like, straight face. I'm like, "Yeah, race demon." Then all of a sudden, I'm like, "That sounds like a good idea for like a weird story, like Cube or whatever." You got this, warehouse that, like, if you walk in the middle of it, you feel like you're in a maze. Put a demon in that shit.
Throw a demon in that shit. Absolutely. My dad had the idea of a like a punked sort of show where the recipient is a demon. So like the concept that they play a prank on the demon and the demon retaliates and basically murders everybody. So, and one of these days I'm going to write that story. Like, I think that'll be fun.
You know what that reminds me of? You know that Megadeth song, The Conjuring?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Obey. Hell yeah, do it up. Like, that actually sounds like a cool anthology. Like, every story is somebody trying to summon a demon for their own gains and just goes horribly wrong. There you go. You got story one.
I got story one. Rachel hopped in, Margaret hopped in, Min.
Hi, Margaret.
And Katerina. How's it going, folks?
I like that name, by the way. Turtle is red.
Yeah, a turtle is red. What is the TV guide synopsis of your most recently completed project?
Recently completed project. It would be the novella. Well, by revision of the novella that's coming out in December.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's like it's the final release, and I guess my first cycle as a writer. Just kind of get my name out there and show what I can do. But TV guide. Well,
your elevator pitch, as it were.
Which I haven't even thought of until now. Thank you for giving me a chance to work on it. It's about a 15-year-old girl who gets abducted in the parking lot of this concert, gets sold into human trafficking, or thrown into human trafficking, sold to the highest bidder, and that's when the horror really starts. That's what I got right now. But
nice.
It's called Skin Auction. I came up with that after meeting my one friend Jamie. She's a survivor of human trafficking.
Oh wow!
Not so much the level where I take it, but it got me thinking about it. Got me looking into it. Which, by the way, if you feel like turning your hair white, look at the stuff that happens with like human trafficking and the survivors and the people that don't come back.
Yeah.
And I decided I want to horror the shit out of this. Kind of send a message, and at the same time, tell a really messed up story.
Right on. What's one of the biggest obstacles you have to overcome in regards to writing?
Distraction.
Are you one of those people who have to like turn off the internet in order to
I probably should
write?
Because I've been plagued with focus attention issues my entire life. It's all, I guess you say neurodivergency spectrum stuff, but like not as severe, but it made writing a chore till I got older. But yeah, like when I'm like with sprints, especially, like, I'm around people. Oh, there's people in the chat. Like I'm just scatterbrained. Or if I'm doing like two things at once and I think I'm going to sit down and write for a minute, no, it's not going to happen. Because like I'll hear the ping on my phone, or I'll just know that I have something else going on, and like I'm barely getting anything out. I'm staring at a paragraph for 20 minutes. Distraction, and basically getting a rhythm down, which was always hard for me. I'm finally starting to break that for writing every day, which, like people who say, I didn't get any writing done.
Daily habit. Yeah, for sure.
And I tell them, like, and they're like, oh, I only got a few words in. Like, if you do it every day, you will get faster. Trust me.
I will be right back.
No, I'm the host. How you guys doing down in the chat? Well, I can't pull this up, but Mama Ward, you are right. it is really horrifying, the human trafficking thing. And as somebody with 3 nieces, it's even worse. Try not to think about it too much. And Margaret Bernard, Atomic Habits is going well. Got to kind of absorb it. It's not, it's one of those things you got to constantly refer back to, apply. And Kenny is sleepy. Oh yeah, you're over in Washington, so it's like what, 7:31 in the morning. Well, it's still early here in the future, Kenny. By the way, don't forget to make friends with that like button, folks. Should I put on some music? I do have a guitar next to me, by the way, if anyone wants to hear in the chat. Ask for guitar.
All right, sorry.
It's all right, I kept it on every time.
How's Atomic Habits going?
I told her I was reading this. Well, actually, I had that in audio. With this whole pulp, release stuff, taking on new responsibilities, actually getting a new job and a new shift. Pun intended. I'm shifting everything in a different direction, working on myself a little more.
Nice.
Being a little more organized.
Also, demon cats.
Oh yeah, by the way, another thing, organization. That's been another hindrance for me that I'm working on with my writing, because the whole outlining thing, I didn't start doing that until my graphic novel.
Ah.
Otherwise, it was just from my brain to keyboard.
Gotcha. Let's see. What is something that your readers might be surprised to find out about you?
I don't know. I kind of just leave it all on. Yeah, nice. That threw me off.
Sorry.
I don't know. I mean, I really don't want anyone to expect anything from me. That's when they're going to be surprised.
You are basically like a cookie cutter horror writer. There's
no. I guess don't expect me to stick to a certain like trope or subgenre in horror, or even horror for that matter.
Right on.
I'd be writing horror stories now just because it's been the genre I grew up on. It's the most I've read, and it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But I like science fiction. I like fantasy. I might want to write a Fight Club one day. Who knows?
Right on.
What about you?
What about me? My mom had the bubonic plague when she was pregnant with me, and I was born with the antibodies.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know we were going that far back. You want to hear something kind of cool?
Sure.
I was born backwards, strangled by my umbilical cord.
Me too.
Really?
Fist bump.
Yeah. Strangulation Street.
Yep, I was a breach.
I came out blue as a Smurf.
I wasn't blue, but I had taken the umbilical cord and like clamped my hands around it, and they had to pry it from my little iron baby grip.
Yeah, I guess you can say my first and best scare is when I was born, but this is a theory I've been working with my whole life. I do kind of have that divot in the top of my lip. The wife's tale behind that, where Gabriel tells
The
you
secret. Yeah.
I'm guessing he told me something so horrific that I decided, like, screw this. I don't even want to start life. Like, was it the alternate ending, the butterfly effect? Have you ever seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Strangle himself in his shoes.
Backwards and upside down. Yeah. Trope bender. Yeah. Just like Mama Ward. Mama Ward is a trope bender too. When he kicked, he was literally kicking my butt. Oh, he kicked me out of so many seats.
Get up.
My sister was supposed to be a C-section, but the doctor who was supposed to deliver the baby went on vacation the week that my mom went into labor, and she was born like, traditionally without. So she was a complicated birth too.
God, can you imagine trying to have a kid like 1,000 years ago?
God forbid,
Ugh.
healthcare not be as like
Well,
able to cope with babies who are strangling themselves and coming feet first.
they're probably like, well, you probably pissed off a witch, or you had your horses under a ladder. With their ham-fisted doctors, your wife's in half in front of you, like it was the witch. But I mean, life back then was so brutal anyway. I mean, childbirth was probably just right up there with shitting. Not, I'm kidding. That's not shitting, but like when it comes to brutality, just living back then, you had the elements, and we didn't have the things we have now. But actually, you know what? Yeah, I'd probably put that up there with probably the number one cause of death back then. Wouldn't you say? Next to plagues.
Childbirth, yeah,
Yeah,
like killing both the child and the mother, usually. Yeah.
I was changing my dumbass answer while I was speaking. I was thinking about that. I mean, bleeding to death, anything, because my sister-in-law, I was with her while she was with her 5 kids, and just looking into that and just the history of it, and Jesus Christ. Yeah. I appreciate you, ladies.
I was a month late because the doctor gave her a shot to stop her labor for a weekend. Oh, so he could go elk hunting, and didn't come out till January 1st. Jesus.
I've never had elk.
Strangled myself until my heart stopped for 2 minutes. So you've had near-death experiences and stuff.
Do you think that's why we write horror?
Lol. The Spartans considered childbirth to be the same as going into battle. Yeah.
Didn't they also just cast aside any baby that just looked deficient? No, seriously, at least in Spartan times, if the baby looked to be malnourished or deficient or small in any way or having any kind of handicap, I think they would just totally throw them off the side of a cliff somewhere.
What is your writing kryptonite?
What does that mean exactly, writing kryptonite?
You said distractions before, but what keeps you from writing? What or what makes your writing, what do you feel like makes your writing suck?
Well, it keeps me from writing, mostly my phone and anything on it. But what makes my writing, I guess, probably need to read more. That's what I always feel like.
Me too.
The right thing.
Yeah.
And expand it, not just read the same thing over and over again.
But no, I tried to read some of the stuff that's really popular, right about now, the highest leading books and stuff like that. And they're terrible. They're awful. So I'm kind of disheartened by horror right now, as far as what's on the market. So writers like you and me, I feel like we have a chance to kind of remind people what horror is supposed to be like.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that the genre, as far as how it is being, consumed by the masses, kind of gets to evolve.
Well, the market's oversaturated and it's low quality because they've long abandoned that. It's all about the quick sale. That's why everything's like a retelling, a remake, a rehash, and everything in between. that's why I kind of see this as a new creative renaissance. People are coming out with so much stuff, whether it be writing, movies, artwork. And, you know, not to mention the past couple of years, everyone's been hunkered down and just, you know, alone and miserable. And this is their.
And really, like, I hunkered down and started breaking out my old projects that I had on the back burner for the last couple of years and actually trying to, like, I'm getting to the point now where I'm finishing some shit. So,
Hell yeah.
you know, like, and I know I can't be the only creative who did that.
No. I've been seeing a lot of that lately in like all different mediums. And you know how like in comics you had the golden age, the silver age and all that. I consider this the iron age. And I'm not the first person to say that. You see it everywhere. People starting their own comic book companies, getting their all crowdfunding projects fulfilled and all that. I'm excited.
Well, speaking of which, I've got a Kickstarter for my own comic right now. I don't know if people were aware of this, but I have a week and a half left of my Hotaru graphic novel. I'm basically using it as a pre-order sort of system. Let's see, I missed a bunch of stuff. Been trying to get off my phone more. I've started bringing word searches and crosswords into the bathroom with me.
That sounds like a Ken thing to do.
Spartans also began martial training for both genders at 8. Boys and girls were considered the same gender until puberty. There are a lot of parents, like fathers in particular, who like wanted a boy and basically treat girls as they're growing up as though they were boys. And then, you know, the girl hits puberty and then the father gets all upset because like it took away the relationship that they had with their kid. And
why?
You know, well, they wanted a son and they got a daughter instead. So
well, you know, some people can't have kids.
And some people can't have kids.
I never understood that. You know, not only is it your child, but, you know, she can also have grandchildren. Can still pass on the line. Still do some cool shit. But, hey, you know, just me.
Yeah, Margaret, like, forced into Old Project Land 2. The story you wrote about the comic backstory was beautiful. How do you mean? The Kickstarter page, maybe? Oh, I have this kitty who's begging for food and wants love.
So how'd you get into comics?
When I was in 4th or 5th grade, I had a friend of my mom's let me read her Uncanny X-Men and X-Men the Standard. And I read X-Men pretty religiously until like 2000 when the movie came out and they tried to rebrand the X-Men. And I was on Guam when the X-Men movie came out, which means like Japanese tourists are like seeing American movies. And we watched X-Men in the theater, and I had never been so disappointed in my life.
With the movie?
Mm-hmm. I was really hurt.
It was okay. I liked X2 a lot more with Nightcrawler.
You can't think of them as based on the comics.
Oh yeah, I've learned to separate that because you do other books too. You go see a movie that's an adaptation. And you're like, no, that didn't happen. Wait a minute, that character's different. And I still do it, but not so severe. It's like you gotta separate it mentally, which is difficult. I can't imagine seeing an adaptation of my own stuff because I'd probably be all over it.
Yeah, me too. However, Neil Gaiman has been writing the TV versions of his stories.
Have you watched
So
anime?
there is. My cat is knocking my water bottle onto the floor. That's great.
Telling you to hydrate.
He is. He's like, feed me, or I'm gonna knock shit over.
I know Clive Barker. He directed Hellraiser, which was based off his novella Hellbound Heart. Because I know because he didn't like the adaptation of Rawhead Rex. He's like, screw this, I'm going to take it in my own hands. And
I didn't write too much history regarding the comic. I got that gig on Facebook through the belly dance community because I was dating a belly dance sort of musician at the time, and it was like friends of his that got a hold of me and was like, hey, I have this vampire comic and I want you to draw it because you did this picture of Deja Thoris and I want a comic in that style. I think that'd be amazing. And yeah, so we formed a friendship, and we had a professional relationship for 8 years, and then she took over the art because our main benefactor lost his job in 2020, and they had to move and like a whole bunch of stuff. And I lost my train of thought. That's cool. Oh well.
Well, I mean, it happens. But that sucks. But I was gonna say, you stopped reading X-Men in 2000. Did you ever catch any of Grant Morrison's new X-Men?
So Grant Morrison killed Psylocke and tried to pull the dead stay dead policy on her, and she was my favorite character. Like, Psylocke was like the character that I commiserated with the most. And for him to kill her off and then try to sweep her under a rug was pretty annoying.
He did the same thing with Damian Wayne in
Yes, he did.
Batman. And luckily, Scott Snyder was like, no, we like this guy.
We like this guy. We're going to bring him back down.
I'm probably going to get my comic fans mad at me. He's probably my favorite Robin. I mean, I love Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake. They're all awesome in their own right. But I just like the attitude. It's different from all the other Robins. He's kind of more like his dad and brooding, but also kind of evil.
Yeah, I got you. Mama Ward has to pretend that the comics and the movies are two completely different stories. The Aeon Flux movie, for instance, I think as a movie by itself, like in its own little island, is a pretty good movie. It doesn't suck. But you can't compare it to the show. It has absolutely nothing to do with the show.
Do you remember Liquid Television on MTV?
Yes, I do.
That's where I first saw Aeon Flux. So, like, when the movie came, I'm like, would be funny if she, like, died in every scene.
And, like, Swamp Thing and the Max and, like...
Hell yes.
The
Head.
The Head.
Oddities. MTV Oddities. There we go.
MTV Oddities, yeah.
Yes.
Love both the comics from the 80s and 90s and also the movies for the most part. They were totally different, but I believe I was so excited to see them on the big screen that I forgave a lot. Gotcha.
Well, I mean, you got I was gonna say Chris Claremont's run in the 80s is the one everyone compares.
That's what I grew up on.
Well, I mean, Marvel in the 80s, you had Frank Miller's Daredevil, you had Kraven's Last Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see that made into a movie. For a long time, I always wanted to because it would make a great movie.
But, it would make a great movie, but I want to say they were starting to introduce Kraven in the Daredevil Netflix show, and then Daredevil got bought by Disney, and they kind of took it a different direction.
What would you say is the best comic book adaptation right now?
Stardust.
Dread.
Dread was good.
I love Stardust too. Sin City.
Sin City, like, I felt like the book hit harder.
Yeah.
And the movie was just kind of like something nice to look at. They tried to kind of like pay homage to the comic book as far as their filming style, but it didn't quite get there.
Point.
Usually prefer the adaptations. However, I have to give props to the adaptations for bringing more people into the fandom. Yeah. I was that generation where I was watching the X-Men TV show.
The 90s cartoon, Fox.
And then I would go back and read the uncanny episode or the uncanny issue that the episodes were based on. Like Days of Future Past, and even the first season, like where they targeted Cyclops. In the comics, it was Angel. And the Morlock episode where like Storm kills Callisto, and like that didn't happen in the TV show. They fought.
I'm trying to remember. It was so long ago. Like the one
I remember so long ago. Yeah.
I remember reading about Apocalypse before it aired on the cartoon. I was like 8 years old, I think.
So Mint Ghost feels my pain because Ileana was a great character. Magic with a CK, I believe, was Ileana. that was, she died of the legacy virus, and like that was pretty fucked.
But I mean, it sucks when they kill a favorite character, but isn't that better than the constant annoyance of, clones, resurrections? Oh, we got an alternate universe version. Oh, we got an amulet to bring them back. Oh, they weren't really dead to begin with.
Hi, Jenna.
Craven.
Craven with a K. But Craven was grossly understated. I feel like they could have written some really beautiful shit with Craven.
Is he getting a movie soon?
Something like that.
Some actor's supposed to play him. I forget who though.
Stardust was good. Yeah. Love the 90s animated shows, both Marvel and DC. Me too.
Batman.
Fox's Batman show was
the standard.
It was the standard. Bruce Timm's take on Batman was my Batman.
It's one of those shows where, like, if you skip the beginning intro, you don't deserve to watch it.
There's a couple of shows that I feel are that way.
But I meant to say this earlier. You're talking about bringing people in new fandoms. That's why I really don't get along with people that gatekeep the way they do. I know you don't want some people to come along and like make demands. You need to change this and change that to mold to my emotions or whatever. But at the same time, I wouldn't have gotten into it unless like a movie came. Well, let's see. Early 90s, there wasn't really many movies, but you know what I'm saying? Like the cartoons, like with Batman. I watched the Adam West series and the Michael Keaton movie before I ever read a comic.
Right.
It is necessary to snag some of those people. I mean, more people watch movies.
For sure. Yeah, hold on. I'm going to back up here a little bit. Apparently, they're continuing the animated series. Apparently, that's going to be a thing. Are they continuing it, or are they starting one from scratch?
I would say original voice actors.
Oh, one can hope. That Wolverine is my Wolverine.
Do you remember Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends from the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Or the first
sure
introduction?
Do. The Silver Surfer and Iceman and...
I think Jean Grey was in it.
Jean Grey, yeah. The TV shows were very watered down, but like the X-Men TV show was based on the comics. They just changed the characters, and they kind of watered down the violence and the racism, and they kind of touched on the racism with what's his name? The guy who the senator who basically
Senator Kelly.
Senator Kelly, and the guy who started Genosha.
But yeah, it was insert. I mean, it's a kids show, like with the
It
Spider-Man.
was supposed to be a kids show, so they talked about Genosha, but like they didn't really talk about Genosha, and they didn't talk about what happened to Storm while she was incarcerated, right? So
Right.
that was, I think the comics hit a lot harder than the show did, for sure.
Yeah, and not to mention censorship and their quirky ways. Like with the Spider-Man anime series, they had Morbius on there when he introduced him. They didn't have him drinking blood. I need plasma. And then he was like taking like suckles from his hand and all that. You know, like he didn't bite anybody, he didn't do any of that. But you know, like I said,
exactly.
it's a little kid
Blade
show.
was the same way, you know, like.
And as much as I would appreciate it as a kid, I realized that, and not every 8-9-year-old was watching Hellraiser.
Yeah, and not every 8-year-old was reading heavy metal, you know, like.
Oh yes.
And watching the original heavy metal movie, you know. So I grew up awfully fast on the media that my parents let me watch.
Well, they tried to stop me, but they both worked early jobs. So like as soon as they were in bed, and luckily I had a TV in my room, low volume.
Mm-hmm. Oh, on phone during lunch. Right on. Oh, Maddie Summer, yeah. Annoyed the F out of me, and they gave her Ilyana's Kingdom. Oh, they did? The Goblin Queen? Was that Ilyana's Kingdom? Is that how that worked? Yes, on Batman. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I hate they always kill and bring back Stingray. I hated that too.
Wolverine.
But it really made, so I I RP'd Psylocke on AOL for like a decade. And like we played into that, you know, like it was, we had some really good RP concerning her whole Phoenix thing, and the effect that she had on like Sabretooth and the Glow and all of that. It was fun.
Sounds better than my experience. Back in AOL days, I was doing wrestling RPs.
Right on.
Back when wrestling was watchable.
Madeline was annoying. Although New Mutants of Inferno was good, yeah. Overlord D has started gatekeeping Marvel excessively, but they were the ones who pushed the fractured multiverse, yeah.
Well, I don't really consider. We talking about the big company, the big D company. Yeah, I don't consider any of that shit canon.
It is a separate universe. Ultimates, even in the comics, was completely separate. Hold on, I need to go off reminders. Hello, Laura, your horror writer, who is awesome in her own right.
Hi, Laura.
Scott McNeil. Scott McNeil, the problematic piece of shit that he was. I met him at a con in like 1998, and he was talking about how he had fucked a 14-year-old.
Ew.
And Scott McNeil, the voice of Wolverine,
And did
He
people
was
rush
he
the
was a
stage?
he was a piece of shit in the 90s. But that was even before Yes All Women and before, you know, Weinstein and all that.
Wow, that's pretty vile.
Mm-hmm. You think they would be happy with the fanficking and such, but I'm sorry for CB's millions of words. Yeah, I fear that they're going to come after CB at some point, but because they are not selling their fics, they can't do anything. So as soon as she tries to monetize, then they'll come right after her. But until then, she can write millions and millions of words more. What about Nightcrawler?
We were talking about X-Men, and I don't know.
Nightcrawler was a favorite. I got into Excalibur because of Nightcrawler, and was a big Excalibur fan for like quite a few years.
You know, I would never tell anybody that I liked that book when I was a kid.
Why?
I don't know why. It just seemed like I get that look, like they're like the offshoot kind of brand.
It was an offshoot, but like Captain Britain and Megan,
Yeah.
and you know, like, and then they had X Force with like Strong Guy
Nice.
and Spain.
Did you ever read Nomad?
I loved Nomad.
Steve Englehart.
Yeah.
It was like '93. I think Bucky was Nomad. It was like different people, but like the '93 run, Steve Englehart and Nomad. It's so underrated.
Senator Kelly and his name is like on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, Sam.
It's
I'm like
making me
locked
nuts.
over here.
Hold on, I gotta look it up.
So you don't like any of the X-Men movies?
First Class, as long as you don't. Hold on. Magneto's Reign.
Yeah,
That didn't help.
back in the '90s, you know, X-Men, Alien versus Predator. But I started off in Tales from the Crypt. That was the first comic I read.
Oh, nice. That's a good place to start.
And like I was 6 years old at the time, so I'd already seen the show. I think that's what drew me to it. You know, after that, you know, Vault of Horror. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So no wonder that you went the route that you did. The show also had a toy company backing them from time to time to please. Yep. God bless the 80s.
Back when toys were dangerous. And they had
could choke on shit. Yeah.
I was gonna say, or had toys and cartoons based off of super rated R movies like RoboCop.
If only we could make action figures for our books. That would be amazing. I used to buy, so I worked at a toy store for my first job, and I would kidnap I ended up kidnapping my Mystique figure and like sanding it down, repainting it, so that it looked like my Psylocke knockoff that I was playing in a Marvel Superheroes game at the time.
You still have it?
So I used to mod action figures to fit my role-playing characters. But in the Marvel universe. So I used Marvel action figures. I was a kid with parents who loved horror and war stories, so I figured things out quickly. I didn't censor my kids, I taught them. I forget that not all kids are like that. Yeah. What is up with my reception? This is getting annoying.
I thought that was me,
When
but I was
it's not you, it's totally me. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, are your parents into horror?
My parents were into weird shit. Like I grew up on Wizards and
Yes, I love that movie.
Fritz, they killed Fritz.
Now I want to watch
heavy metal and Layer the White Worm and like really, really weird, fucked up shit.
Serpent and the Rainbow.
Yeah.
Not me. My dad was like a in passing horror fan. My mom hated it. My brother was like, he tolerated it. But yeah, I was the one watching it and like would like have a few sleepovers. Yeah, it didn't last very long. Kids had to go home. Like, what's The Exorcist?
Ilyana's like history. Yeah. Hold on. Let's see what's up. I love how many people I meet on here have role played and written fanfic of the comic characters. I still have a bunch of fanfic from the 90s that like Flash, though so there was a question that I found to ask authors, like, what was the first book to make you cry? A book hasn't made me cry. Fanfic made me cry. There was a fanfic by Tangerine Dream who it was Psylocke and Angel had the legacy virus. And she had basically said, like, the reason why he can fly is because he had hollow bones like a bird. And it was like about their relationship and about like his history and how he was dying of the legacy virus. So like that, like his death, like that made me cry.
That actually is sad. I was trying to think of any stories that ever made me cry. I'm a couple, actually, now that I think about it. Bridge of Terabithia. I remember reading that when I was like 15 or 16 and just getting emo as hell afterwards.
Aww. New Mutants, yeah. Danny Moonstar, yeah. Written as Wanda, Deadpool, Jean Grey, and several original characters in the universe, especially in the Blade and Knight stories. I inherited a box of Excalibur and fell in love. Damn right you did. Remember Lockheed?
What's that?
I loved Lockheed. That was
Lockheed?
Shadowcat's little dragon, little pseudo dragon. Which Shadowcat had a dragon. That takes me back. I love New Mutants the best, and the next best was X-Men. Yeah.
I actually found on Mercari this lot. It was the X-Men title 1 through 50 for like $25.
Wow.
Yes. Was
it like normal X-Men that started in like 92 or whatever?
Yeah, it was the one modeled after the show. Well, I mean, like more along the lines show like the aesthetic and all that. It was like Wolverine.
No, Jim Lee did. Jim Lee was the one who drew the standard X-Men series.
Oh, that was him because he did the art on most of them.
And then it was so by the time Quanon rolled around, they were doing Leaf Field. And I was so aware that all of his faces looked the same. And Quanon was supposed to be Japanese. And Jean Grey is a white girl, and they had the same face. There was a point where like they're arguing, and they have like the panels right next to each other, and the faces are split, and they're the same face. They're making the same face.
How many
Same
X-Men
expression.
titles were in the 90s? I know there's every Marvel title.
If you hung out for Age of Apocalypse, there were 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how long did that go?
Only for like 6 months. So it never like astonishing and amazing, and I can't remember the others, but it was because I only made it 5 in, and I was like, I can't fucking afford this.
Right.
I can't do this.
It's getting to like manga style commitment.
Yeah. I was committed to manga though. Like,
I could do the shorter ones like Hellsing or Akame ga Kill or like Akira.
My favorite series was Battle Royale. Yeah, it was gory, but like there were, if you compare it to the movie, like you get to know the characters a lot better in the manga, and they have like story arcs and shit that they didn't feature in the movie. So like you can cut your teeth on the movie and then read the manga. And I read 1 through 17, and then wrote a zombie script.
Awesome.
And my shots are influenced by Junji Ito and Battle Royale, but one of these days I will be good enough to draw it.
Weren't you good enough now? I haven't seen it.
Because I finished that script, and I needed to cleanse my palate, and because it's a horror book and it is horrific, and I was like, I'm still a good person, and so I started writing a fairy tale, and that's a graphic novel that I'm in the process of drawing. Like I started drawing it in 2020, and I'm about halfway through the book. But yeah, I'm working on a fairy tale that the challenge was to not use any dialogue, and the art had to stay simple. And I had to tell the story in illustrations only. So, and it kind of took another backseat when I started, taking on this video game thing.
How long is it supposed to be?
120 pages.
No dialogue?
No dialogue.
Between that and writing a story that you had to decompress from, I am damn curious. I would like to see both of these, please, if you don't mind.
Right on. Maybe I'll throw both of the scripts your way and see if I can get your 2 cents about them.
Oh, well, I'm just now kind of like writing my first script, and off the few lessons I've gotten off other people, just teaching myself along the way. So I will give the best advice that I can. But I'm more interested in seeing
not just advice, but everybody that I had read Contingency Plan, they said, "Oh, this is so good," and I was like, "But I need critique," and they're like, "Oh, I wasn't paying attention because the pace was so fast. I just didn't pay attention to the technical aspects. I was swamped by the story." And in that regard, I was like, okay, so it's successful.
See, I've had the opposite problem. Like even with the people I send my stuff to, I'll ask them, yeah, it was good. It was, pretty messed up. It was cool. Like, all right, well, did this scene work? What do you think of this character? Was that too gory? Was that too far? Silence. Oh, fine. I'll just figure it out.
I'll figure it out. Yeah, that's how I felt after Contingency Plan. And I was so disgusted with myself after having written that, and I won't give spoilers, but it's basically what my zombie apocalypse plan was at the time. And it's like, what if the zombocalypse happened and, you know, like my life at that point in time and how the zombie apocalypse would have impacted society and my life. And it, of course, it's a horror story, so it like it left a really sour taste in my mouth. And so I was like, I need to do something that's friendly. I need to do something that's lighthearted. I need to do something that's funny. And that's what Three Sillies is.
I think that's what we have to do sometimes, especially if we go somewhere really deep and dark.
Yeah.
Like, or somewhere like somewhere very personal. Like with Skin Auction, you know, I had to write about that, research it. Not to mention taking it in a really messed up direction, and also thinking about, you know, blood ties, you know, that are girls, and, you know, worrying about them out in the world at any age. You know, like I remember when I started writing it, I went and started watching like Studio Ghibli movies. Just excited to get my mind out of that place.
For sure. For sure. I think there is that side to every horror writer. Or artist, or, you know, someone who deals in horror all the time. I think they appreciate whimsy. You know, they appreciate, like, I don't know a female horror writer that isn't into Hello Kitty. Like, they can appreciate the cute shit.
Yeah.
I think because there has to be some levity. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, and that was how I wrote Hope's Chest. Is there are funny bits at the end of every chapter, well, most of the chapters anyway. And one, it showed the camaraderie of the Cabal, and two, it was like a little bit of ha-ha during a really tense time. And it was a point where you could move on in the story, or you could, you know, save the next chapter for the next time you sat down. That was the psychology that I was like going with it.
I think as creatives, you have to be a certain kind of weird anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be a certain kind of brave / crazy to want to share it with people. And with writers, more in particular horror writers, I think we just go sink our heads deeper over the edge into that abyss more than most people. And occasionally we feel the weight pull at our belly because we went a little too far over. And yeah, you catch yourself and it's like, oh, fuck, I got to, you know, chill out.
So Rachel just saw some toys and comics from Tales from the Crypt and Creepshow at Target.
At Target?
At Target.
I wonder if they're a trade or a single issue.
I wonder. Let's see. Bad enough I see Funkos on the Facebook from time to time, and all I keep thinking is more space does not mean more stuff. Yeah.
Aren't Funko Pops like the new Beanie Babies?
Kinda. My husband is a big fan of Funko Pop, and he only buys from series that he gives a shit about. So he buys Batman, he buys Skyrim, he buys Borderlands. I think that's that. I think that's the lion's share of his collection. Oh, such problems we have. Yeah. My Funko collection, since getting my own office, is taking over, but I feel like I deserve it after so many moves. Yeah.
We all got to have an obsession.
I have so many that are boxed up. It's painful. And it's not romance novels that make the heart flutter. It's heart-ripping fan fiction. Heart-ripping fan fiction. I can relate. I wish I had saved off that fanfic, like, because finding it these days is like pulling teeth. I think of the fanfic of Percy Jackson called Altered Destiny, where Percy is raised by Hades and Persephone, was so much better than the original. Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a Percy Jackson fanfic. I love those books.
Laura cried at British and Terabithia as well.
Oh, sad.
And she is, you know, she gets it. Yeah, absolutely. Writing and reading our Marvel fanfic has made me cry so much more than the actual comics ever did. There were scenes and topics in X-Men that really hit home for me. And especially like the racism and how that escalated into yeah, where the red fern grows and Watership Down. Yeah.
Well, it just shows you the magic of storytelling. We are magicians here. You can evoke the emotions from somebody you've never met before.
And that's what inspires me to do, to like, I realize that my writing is good when it moves even me.
Yes.
Like, I am hard to impress. I am hard to like really appreciate the bottom of the barrel. And I feel like I also Lockheed is awesome. Yes, absolutely. I lost my train of thought again. It's all good.
No, you were saying like how you can get an emotional reaction out of a reader, somebody you never met
Then
before.
I know I've succeeded as a writer.
Not only that, but like somebody you never met before on some other place you've never been for, and like even at a time where you no longer exist, you can still reach somebody.
Yeah.
Magic.
Oh, yay! Yay! If you're not on my server on Discord, you totally should be. There's a link in the description below. I want to see pictures. I do. Oh, Lockheed stuffed animal. Oh. Yeah, cried for where the red fern grows as well. I kind of cried at. I got choked up at Witcher Blackbird Pond, which my mom made me read when I was a kid, and so I was one of those kids where my mom said you have to read for an hour a day. If you want to read more than that, then great, but you have to read for a minimum of 1 hour in my presence. And she would take this tin and put in like a book series or whatever, and I could choose any book in that tin and read to my heart's content. So I usually read like 2 to 3 hours a day. And the Mark Twain series, I had to look sideways at, even in the 80s. Like, and also, Kitty, you're distracting me. What do you want?
Probably still want you to hydrate. Kiss her.
Go on. Nausicaa was my first anime. And the first anime to make me cry was at the time called Windaria. I think it's called Tales from Fantasia these days. They like retitled it. But the Romeo and Juliet moment, like, I was 13 when I had seen the movie a million times at that point. And for some reason, that scene, I started ugly crying. And I was like, what the fuck is happening to me? I don't understand these feels.
Well, Grave of the Fireflies. That kicked me right in the feels.
That kicked me right in the groin because my grandmother was in Japan during that time. And she put her siblings through college and ran the farm and all of that stuff during World War II. And there were like 5 kids in the family. Well, the parents didn't survive. And so she basically raised her siblings. And then she went, at some juncture, she went from Japan to the States. And not just any state, but Nebraska, of all places, and met my grandfather. And so she moved to Guam with my grandfather. And kind of rebuilt her life. So she used to make food for like 12 people, even though there were only 3 of us. And I was like, Grandma, why do you always make so much food? And she was like, because I can.
I like her.
Because food wasn't around when I was your age. Like,
that sounds a lot like that generation. They post depression.
Exactly.
But you want to hear some kind of funny? We're talking about Ghibli. I got my nieces into those movies, and one of the last times I was visiting over there, I put on one that none of us had ever seen before, called "The Tale of Princess Kaguya."
Oh,
you should. I don't know if you've ever seen that one at all.
Mm-mm.
It has probably the saddest ending out of all the Studio Ghibli movies, and that says a lot.
Aww.
That was not a good movie to put on with a bunch of little girls. Like, why did you do this? Like, ruin the whole day.
Did you just like throw your money at them and run away?
Who?
I don't know. Oh, who are you referring to?
If it was a good enough pizza.
I wish I had pizza. I would love some pizza. Scarred me when I read it. Yeah. I had to sit in the hall and sob. Okay, have to go pick up the doggo from the groomer, but you have fun. Yay! I miss these topics. This is a fun nostalgic trip. There was this also the Who Asgard thing when Loki tried to trick the X-Men into killing the Asgard gods and Maddie announced she was pregnant. Yep. I remember that.
I've known Mama Ward, like one of the first people I met when I came into Author too, but I did not know she was into comics. We need to talk more. Call me. We need to geek out.
Yeah. When Loki kidnapped Storm. Yeah. That takes me back. Holy shit. I had all X-Men from the 80s in storage at my mom's, and we didn't realize there was a water leak in the closet, and all my stuff was in until months after the storm. My mom threw them all away, and I wept.
Oh, no.
My mom had, like, Conan #1, and, like, the first, like, 75 issues of Conan, and Silver Surfer, and, like, a bunch of other Marvel wonders.
I've actually never read.
Stop that.
I've never read Conan, like the comic. I've read the Robert E. Howard books, but never the Marvel comic.
It's good. And my mom tried, because of military allowance, we couldn't take it with us. So my mom tried to give them away, and nobody would believe her. So she ended up throwing them away.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, your mandatory reading time every day, comics weren't, part of.
But when I started reading comics, like, they had no problem buying them for me. They had no problem with me writing them or drawing them. They had no problem with me reading that the kind of topics that X-Men like had, because they read X-Men in their youth, and like the okay. Sorry, I'm being distracted.
I get it. Have you ever read the Savage Avengers with Conan? Was it Punisher, Elektra, Venom?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still going, but I think 2018 it was. Yeah, the Savage Avengers team: Punisher, Elektra, Venom, Conan, and somebody else. It was actually pretty. I read like the first.
Indeed.
I read the first 6 issues, and it was pretty badass. But I don't know how far it went.
Yeah, I gotcha. I always like Asgard arc. Yeah. If you want to bleed a little, I'll take the challenge. Jenna pulling out her favorite teacher, red pen. Yeah. Always purple. Never red. Always purple. Red adjacent. The red adjacent pen. And nice crimson-y purple. Writer's block antidote is Studio Ghibli. You've seen the relationship that Junji Ito and Miyazaki have together?
No.
Oh my god, it's hilarious. Because Miyazaki is so jaded, and Junji Ito is so chipper and like looks at the sunny side of life and shit. So like Junji is like doing all the wonderful like whimsical shit and like looking at butterflies and shit like that, and then Hayao Miyazaki is just like, I want you to die.
Yet
Society is falling apart.
Yet horror writers get the bad rap.
Yet horror writers get the bad rap. Yeah.
Well, like Walt Disney, he did all those wonderful child stories, and and apparently dark person. Maybe that's just what up, D?
How's it going?
But yeah, I mean, I think the people that go too far into like the light kid stuff usually have like the darkest attitude outside of it. Maybe not saying that's all of them. I don't want to children's stories, people coming at me.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's like a thing there, because I've noticed a lot of horror people are always the brightest, most friendly, people. Like, hey, welcoming you in.
Yeah. All the like, I'm friends with a bunch of horror writers, and like, I think they're swell people. They're not like particularly dark, foreboding, group. What's the word I'm looking for? I fail to describe the sort of morose morbidity that people assume horror writers have.
Well, I think a lot of people just misunderstand that for just social ineptitude. They think somebody's a dark, brooding person. The fact is they don't know what to say to you.
Yeah. I haven't been able to watch Halo for that reason. Yeah. I made it mostly through the first episode and noped right out of the rest. Yeah. The end of Flambeau upset me, and you know why. Yep. And I was hoping that that would hit the way, like, that it would upset people, you know, that I would like to think that I feel so sad from books still. Yeah, yeah. Joy Luck Club, yeah.
The
Joy
movie was
Luck
sad
Club
enough.
yeah, yeah. Madness to hire someone without a passion for the intellectual property that they're writing for, instead of wedging their own skewed perspective that goes contrary to why it's loved.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why the Iron Man movies are so, and the Deadpool movies and stuff like that are so popular, is because the people who are, you know, MODOK and whatnot, is because the people who are playing these characters were fans of the comic. So when Robert Downey Jr. came in, he heard that Iron Man was casting, and he's like, "I'm going to be Iron Man. I am Tony Stark. Look at my history. Look at my being. I am Tony Stark." And they're like, "Gain 50 pounds and grow a beard, then we'll talk." And he came back with 50 pounds and a beard and said, "I am Tony Stark." And they're like, okay, you're Tony Stark.
And he is.
And he is.
He kicked off everything.
Yep. Same with Ryan Reynolds. He's like, the writing that they did in the X-Men series, where the Weapon X thing, where they sewed Deadpool's mouth shut and stuff like that. Like,
I don't recall this movie whatsoever. Well,
exactly.
they finally get him to shut up, though.
He makes fun of it, right? So, like, it's so easy to.
That is cool. Or like, say they weren't a fan of it, and by getting the role, they embrace it. Like with Ian McKellen, I don't know if he was a fan of Tolkien's work that much before he got hired as Gandalf, but he was reading the shit out of the books while, you know, during filming.
Mm-hmm,
You know, we got to respect the source material.
Yeah. When you saw the first one's for $25, first one's what? But Battle of the Planets and Gotcha Man was first anime in 1979 with subtitles. It was in Japanese, no subtitles, Nausicaa, in 1981.
Nice.
That was my first.
My first was Dragon Ball Z. And Dragon Ball.
Of course it was.
Because I would catch it after school on Cartoon Network, and it was always Dragon Ball, then Dragon Ball. It's funny, like you see Kid Goku, then all of a sudden you're watching him in the Cell Saga. But I didn't stick in the kid pool very long. Straight from there, it was, you know, Akira, Vampire Hunter D, Demon City, Legend of the Overfiend.
Demon City Shinjuku. Oh wow, that takes me back.
Tank Police. So yeah, I didn't stick around the kiddie pool long. And I actually had to come back in recent years and start watching like Naruto from the beginning, which I love, and One Piece, which, did I tell you that I started that from episode 1 back in August?
Oh, really?
I had a long routine of watching 2 episodes a day, like right when I wake up in the morning before I get my thing going. It fell off a little bit, but I'm like episode 171 now.
Nice.
So like I'm like a ninth of the way there. But like I've seen episodes before on like Toonami, so I know how crazy the show gets, and like watching it like progress and get better and better, including the animation. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Spirited Away was legit nightmare fuel for my nephew, and then I showed him the scene in Mononoke where the forest spirit's head is lost. Yeah.
Mononoke is my favorite Ghibli movie.
It's the stuff that should have killed the TMNT. Yeah.
Have you read Last Ronin? TMNT?
No. It sounds like something I would read, though.
Yeah, it's came out in 2020. I don't know if it's still going either. I fell off of my pull list like a year or two ago. But yeah, it's set in the future. I'm not going to spoil too much, but all are dead but one, and he's wandering on his own, kind of going nuts. Older.
Ooh.
Yeah.
SD Houston is getting ready right now to, or at least a few minutes ago, to interview someone for the self-publishing tips and tricks video. But don't forget about the AWC 2023 announcement live later today at 4 p.m. Bring your questions. Woo! I'll be there.
I admire her work ethic. Like, she's always on there.
Me
Like,
too.
it makes me check myself a lot. So thank you, Shannon.
Yeah. So much from the 80s and 90s cartoons that the Karens would cancel. Yeah.
They did back then, too. Remember the first Ninja Turtles movie?
Tipper Gore.
Yes. Ugh.
Fucking, I remember Tipper.
I remember Dee Snider treating her ass to that censorship thing.
Exactly. After Dr. Howdy.
Which one?
Yeah, you come out with Captain Howdy, and Tipper flipped her shit, and he was like, "No, this is media that needs to exist."
Yes, it's expression, it's art. Art is not safe, and it just shows you that cancel culture has always fucking been there, and it's not always been one political aisle. It shifts with the politics are lagging indicator of culture. That's where it starts at, and it shifts every year. The 80s were more conservative, 90s were a little more loose, and then we come into this century.
Vampire Hunter.
Yes. Do you remember? Was it Saturday Morning Anime on Sci-Fi Channel?
Sure do.
On YouTube, there's a bunch of those, and like Vampire Hunter with like the old commercials and everything.
Nice. So my grandmother, Robot Carnival. I've been looking for that on DVD, and it's never been released.
I've never seen it.
So good. It was on Saturday Morning Anime.
Have you ever seen Legend of the Overfiend?
No.
It's basically like a demented 13-year-old wrote it. It's total shock value, but it's a little entertaining.
So the thing about Robotech is if you, it's really fun to read the subtitles and have the dubbing on because they're two entirely different storylines. This Intrad War was wildly different. Like, so if you understand Japanese or you listen to the dub and read the subs, two completely different stories.
Have you seen Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Fuck yeah.
Yes.
The lesson in Zen that is the final episode.
I didn't finish it, but cool.
Oh, you gotta.
I got far in there, but I fell off. It's long.
Oh, it's not that long. Especially considering I'm like super into long-running series of the 80s and 90s. I also miss OVAs.
That's why, like, the movie Pacific Rim, right?
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of like Gundam and Neon Genesis.
Well, that's what they're paying homage to, for sure. Takoryu, Hakushu, like Demon Project, like that is what they were pulling from for Pacific Rim. And Godzilla and, stuff like that.
Oh, all the kaiju movies. Hell yeah.
I guess technically some of the old cartoons on Nick need to like Unico, so maybe that was my first. Yeah. Unico. Yeah.
Those old Nick cartoons, Snick, Saturday Night. My jam, yo.
Also, we had our own strengths, Yeah.
Yes, but I need to get stronger.
Had several Bubblegum Squad mangas that my ex-husband kept. Oh, boo. Thundercats had a child psychologist on the writing set to please the censors. Yeah. Rankin Bass, I think, was Thundercats and Silverhawks and stuff like that. 70s claimed to be liberal, but having lived through them, I can say they were more intolerant than the 60s. Yeah, that's true. Pacific Rim graphic novels were so good. I have not read the graphic novels. I bet they're awesome though.
Does Guillermo del Toro write them? Because I know he wrote the Strain books with what was his name? The Chuck guy. Damn, can't remember his name. He co-wrote with somebody.
One of these days, I'm gonna finish Death Stranding because Hideo Kojima, who is the brain meats of Silent Hill, and Del Toro, who, you know, does what he does, and they got together and made a video game. And like, I'm in the first like hour and I'm getting lost.
I love Guillermo del Toro. It's like when you see a fanboy doing what he loves doing. I saw this picture of Rick Baker, a special effects artist, put up with him at the like his star on the Walk of Fame, and it was Rick Baker, another guy, and Guillermo del Toro with the cheesiest smile on his face, like the smile I'd probably have if I was standing there with Rick Baker at his star. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. Oh. Well,
Are you gonna do any writing today?
Not today. But as a writer, what would you choose as your spirit animal, avatar, mascot, whatever?
I imagine this changing the longer I go, if I can still go, especially as independent. Well, probably be a shock to anybody who knows me and knows what I've been writing about recently, but a wolf.
Oh, Del Toro didn't write for Death Stranding. No, but Del Toro and Kojima were working on Silent Hills, and Capcom put the squash on it.
Damn.
Yeah. But it got canned. So they went and made Death Stranding. Family wants to go get a Christmas tree. Looks like we'll be driving into the mountains today. Dagnabbit.
Oh, they're getting it the Griswold way, huh? Nice.
Lunch hour is over. Back to teaching. Take care, all. Blessings be. Heading
Bye, Jenna.
out. Blessings be.
Thanks for hanging out, Mama.
Stitch. I should be wrapping up because I have errands to run and things to do before like 1 p.m. So if you like this video at any point, I encourage you guys to hit the like button. And where can people find you on the internet, RC?
I can be found on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. At Instagram, it's the RC Scott Official. On Twitter, it's the RC Scott. And just RC Scott on Facebook because there's another RC Scott aside from back in the day, so I had to do it like that. Still working on a website. I have 2 stories up right now. Short story, No Strings Attached, my first release, available on Kindle, along with my midnight double feature, 2 stories for the price of 1.
Sweet. You should subscribe and keep an eye out for RC in the future. I suspect good things. Good things.
I will try.
If you guys haven't subscribed already, then I encourage you to do so, and maybe even ring that bell on the off chance that YouTube actually notifies you when I go live. And I will catch you guys on the flip side.